Good evening, everybody. We're here to conduct the public hearing on the draft of the Keeping of Animals regulation proposed by the Board of Health. Oh, okay. How about that? Okay. I'm going to make some kind of introductory remarks, which is basically kind of the rules of the road for the meeting, and then we'll just, kind of start in after that. As I said at the last meeting, there's not going to be any vote at the end of this meeting. We're really here to get your opinions, your recommendations, for you to educate us. I have come to be aware more in the last several days than I was even aware of before, that animal welfare and government oversight of farms are both topics that generate a lot of disagreement and passion. And I don't expect you to necessarily be dispassionate, but I'd like you to direct that disagreement and passion to the board and not to other persons who are speaking. So we don't want any, back and forth between people. This should be kind of like the way town meeting is run, where questions and comments come to the board. And I guess that means me. So I would just appreciate keeping it respectful and cordial, and in that way constructive for us up here, and hopefully educational to everybody who's interested in this topic. I don't think that the idea of this meeting was also to get into a dialogue with members of the board. So if there are particular questions that are asked, we'll try to answer that, but I don't think we're going to try to convince each other, to change minds or, to get back and forth, because there are a lot of people who have asked to speak. So in terms of the order of the speakers, after I've run through this, each of my colleagues want to make a brief statement. Then I want to offer the courtesy for elected officials who may be in the audience to speak. I think that's normally the protocol in a meeting like this. Then I want to do something that is, just because of how this regulation was developed, I wanted to ask members of the work group who worked with me and Matt to develop this regulation, give them an opportunity to speak. So Ray Raposa of the Agricultural Commission, Darren Mendes, who is not here now, people may know, he raises cattle. I think he's associated with the slaughterhouse, also associated, I think, with the Bristol County Agricultural Association. Constance Gee, and Donna Perillo, who have both been long involved on the animal advocacy side, are both members of the, so those four people worked with Matt and I at many, many meetings over the summer. This draft reflects a lot of their input. They had a lot of influence over this draft. It's the draft that went to the Agricultural Commission, who reviewed it before it came back to the board, and we put it up for the public meeting. So I'm hoping their comments will put this in context. Then we will work through, go down the list of sign-ins, and in order to accommodate everybody, we're asking for people to speak for no more than 3 minutes. And if you have more to say, you can get a chance after other people have had an opportunity to speak. If you have written statements, I encourage you to summarize them, and you can turn them into us as part of your public comment. So we're going to try to be conscious of the time and let you know when you're kind of reaching your limit. There's no giant crane or hook's going to come out, but just give everybody an opportunity to have their say. The last piece is that it's obvious the meeting is being videotaped. But I didn't learn until late Friday that we don't have the capability in this room of the annex to live stream the event here. And we had to make a decision on Thursday night before the meeting closed as to where the event, where this was going to happen. So rather than continuing moving the event to another location, because it was very clear that people wanted to be in the room, and I didn't want to change the location of the event on Monday when it got posted. We're not live streaming now. This will be up on the Vimeo, the web page that carries all the hearings. That should happen very shortly. As soon as it is, we will post it on the on the Board of Health website, and then it will also get to the cable channels. Okay, so that's my introduction. So I'll turn it over to either. If you want to say something, you're the vice chair.
Okay. Hi, I'm Tanya Bryden. First, I'd like to thank the members of the work group who spent many hours together to help write this draft regulation that is open for comment tonight. And Phil has already mentioned them, but again, Ray Raposa, Darren Mendes, Donna Perillo, Constance Ski, Donna Lambert also gave input, Matt Armando, and it was then led by Phil Weinberg, chair of the Board of Health, and he convened the work group. I was able to participate in some of the meetings that, when they were posted for the public, including the joint Board of Health and Agricultural Commission meeting in August. From what I saw, everyone was willing to put their opinions out there, make suggestions, and offer compromises to help get to a reasonable draft. Clearly there's concern and confusion, and so there's still work to be done to improve the draft. I hope the work group will reconvene to continue that work. And I also wanted to speak more generally about the role of the Board of Health, which I see in terms of 4 Ps for the health of the community, and that's prevention, protection, partnership, and public education. And that latter one is I'm personally particularly focused on as a Board of Health member. So in that context, I want to use a relevant example of the 4 Ps in the general context of keeping of animals by reminding people about the EEE, or Eastern Equine Encephalitis threat, that is still moderate in Westport. Statewide this summer, there have been 7 human cases, including 1 fatality so far, 8 horses, and 1 goat affected, with none in Westport to date, fortunately. EEE is transmitted by mosquitoes, so you should protect yourself from bites, prevent mosquito breeding by removing sources of standing water. For animal owners, the state advises flushing water troughs weekly, keeping horses in indoor stalls at night, and checking with your vet about repellents and vaccines. If an animal is suspected of having EEE or West Nile virus, notify the Mass Department of Agricultural Resources and the State Department of Public Health. But we'd ask you to let the Board of Health know too, so we can partner with AgCom, that's the 3rd P, to get the word out locally and to help get state resources in if needed. In recent times, the Board of Health has worked closely with AgCom to rely on their expertise and relationships to help address issues that have come up on local farms that we as board members hear about. That's one partnership that has been a valuable one to the Board of Health, and I hope it continues as we work to support a healthy community in all its aspects. Now I look forward to getting feedback on the regulation for the Board of Health to consider, and thank you for coming tonight.
So I'm Maury May. I am the Secretary of the Board of Health, and I am here tonight to listen to you, the citizens of Westport. As our chairman just said, issues of animal welfare and governmental oversight are passionate issues in this town, and I am looking forward to your comments. Thank you.
All right, so are there any public officials, elected public officials in the audience who would like the opportunity to speak now? Dick Brewer. So people come forward. I should say when you come forward, please identify yourselves for our, for the record, so to speak.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak. My name is Dick Brewer.
He said I have to identify myself, so I'm doing that. And I'm really appreciative of all of you being here tonight. This is what local government is all about. And after last week's part one, I said to a fellow member of the Board of Selectmen, gee, I wish Board of Selectmen meetings could be this exciting. And that person said, well, I don't think you want that. And I said, no, actually I do, because the more we hear from you with your ideas and your comments, believe it or not, people will listen, and I think our elected officials here on the Board of Health will do that tonight. There is one thing that we all have in common here, and I know that it's a love of Westport, number one, but number two, that none of us want to see animal abuse. And I do not believe anybody in this room would support animal abuse in any way, shape, or form. So I'm greatly appreciative as an elected official that you're here tonight. I thank you for being here, and I give you my word we will listen to you and take heed in what you have to say. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Brewer. All right, are there members of the work group who want to speak? Ray or Donna, go ahead.
Hi, my name is Donna Porlo. I was an at-large member of the Animal Action Committee, which was formed after the second Medeiros Farm case. I am only speaking for myself here, not anyone else who sat on that committee. In the 18 months we met, the discussion was focused on breaking down why this happened twice and how to prevent it again. We looked into how other towns handled animal-related matters and realized that Board of Health and animal regulations at the town level are commonplace, with the exception of equine and swine, which have a regulation in place. The appropriate town officials in Westport do not know where the animals are. Even with the bond book inspection process, the Medeiros Farm incidents happened in 2010 and 2016. We must have one list to be available to both the police department for public safety concerns and also to provide the animal inspector with a yearly registry list prior to bond book inspections every fall. Currently, if our animal inspector should decide to leave, the knowledge of where the animals are goes with that person because that information cannot be shared with the town. In addition, the statement that we already have bond book inspections. Why do we need this? The reason is because this is not a duplicate effort, because all the information goes to the state by law. Currently, we have approximately 120 properties that receive bond book inspections. The AgCom chairperson once stated that there could be anywhere from 200 to 400 properties. I will end with a quote from MDOT Director Mike Cahill in his 2016 annual report regarding animal inspectors. The other major role the inspectors fulfill for the division is conducting the annual inspections of all domestic livestock and poultry housed on properties in their respective towns. These inspections are part of MDOT's disease surveillance system and assist in ensuring animal owners provide basic necessities for the animals in their care. Additionally, the information the division receives through these inspections assists in the development of the emergency response plans for disease outbreaks or other disaster situations. Thank you.
Thank you, Donna.
Before we go on, this is a very difficult mic to actually hear people. I don't know about everyone in here, but I'm straining to hear what people are saying. This is important discussion. Is it possible, if we were able to hear you guys, is it possible to have people use a different mic or perhaps?
Yeah, I'm aware there is kind of feedback in the mic. I don't know if,
It's terrible, really.
Yeah.
I'm having a
you working on that?
hard time.
Huh? Okay.
Steve Larson.
Oh. Yeah, okay. Yeah, there is an extra mic here. I don't know if if it's a problem with the mic or a problem just with the loudspeaker.
Well, here's the extra mic. Is this one better? Is this one better? I hear some heads nodding in the front.
Yeah, because it's not, so, yeah. I think it's just a function of the speaker, less than the quality of the microphone. So let's just do the best that we can, or people can just speak, don't rely on the microphone, just speak, as loud as you can, away from the mic. I mean, step back a little from the mic. I don't know what else.
But I sympathize with you because I can't hear that well either.
Yeah. Okay.
It's hard to have a hearing if you can't hear.
Okay, so if Lori's mic is heard better,
Yeah.
can we
So
take
you want to try to move, but I don't, it's not.
Because the air exchange is loud.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's not quite,
So we just heard a comment about turning the heat off because of the air exchanger. I don't know quite how to do that.
There's Steve Ward.
I know I saw, yeah. So, and I think we're just going to have to make do, okay? I don't know, maybe Matt probably went out to, can you see if you can? Okay, so we're going to call the build.
Wayne should still be there.
Oh, so we're going to call the building manager and see if we can do something about the heat or the noise from the ventilation system. Okay, so let's go forward with other members of the work group briefly. Anybody else? Constance, do you want to speak now, or do you want to wait? Or is Ray, do you want to speak? Ray, speak.
I have a suggestion. If the mics up there are better, why not bring the people in the street to sit at the table and use one of those mics?
We could probably do that.
I don't think
because
it's the
everybody would be
microphone.
on
This
camera.
microphone's okay.
Yeah. It's the...
Everybody hear me?
Yeah.
I'm Ray Raposa, chairman of the AgCom. I've been at this for a year and a half. Haven't had much support, guys. I've been put in a compromised position without your input, but better late than never. AgCom voted a year ago to support tenant farm regulations. We did not support a site registry. We have not voted on these drafts here. We just talked about it. I'm embarrassed to say that I helped with this draft in a compromised position. When you're back to the wall, you make do. Even as recently as before the meeting last week, I still had reservations. I probably would have gone along with 75% of the regulation or the draft. Today, it would probably be less with your support. Some of the standards are good. Some of them I don't agree with. I think there needs to be a threshold as to who is inspected and who isn't. With your input here, we will be able to make better decisions. I don't hold anything against the Board of Health. Without input from you people, they had little to go on. So we were working together on this. But I don't really want to talk that much here. I would rather listen to what you people have to say the Board of Health would. We are still going to continue to move forward, AgCom, and myself and the Board of Health, to change these regulations and come up with something better for farmers and and the backyard people in general. Thank you.
Can everybody hear me here? Good? Great. Sorry about the feedback. My name is Constance Gee. I have been honored to serve on the working group with Phil and Matt and Ray and Darren and Donna. I wish to speak to the collaborative nature of our many meetings over several months, and to the good faith consensus we all reached on the proposed keeping of animal regulation and animal site registry form. The regulation and simple registry have been vetted by the entire Agricultural Commission, most recently for an hour and a half during its regular August meeting. Some concerns were expressed over definitions and a few other minor aspects, but we were heartened to hear Ray say at the end of the session, and I quote, "I don't have any objections as long as we continue to work together." You can find that at 1 hour and 29 minutes on the August meetings. So I must admit to being taken aback by the outrage I have read on social media and in Everything Westport from those who oppose its adoption. This effort has been in the works for several years now, and at every turn, input from the farming community has been solicited. I'd like to add that many of us who want to see the regulation and registry implemented have made several significant concessions. We believe strongly there should be a small fee of $25 to $30 to cover the establishment and ongoing updating of the registry, and to help defray the cost of site inspections as needed by town personnel. We wanted to see a simple manure management plan for each property to make certain our groundwater and wetlands are protected. We wanted it to be a bit more of a permitting system in that before the Board of Health signed off on all the small livestock operations that have never before been inspected during the annual state barn book inspection, a site visit would be conducted to make certain of compliance. Yet, in order to see this simple registry take effect, we stepped back from all those requests and accepted this most minimal version of the registry. I'm glad to see the farming community here, finally. The purpose of a public hearing is for people to be heard. And I want to say that, having read and listened to oppositional commentary, I hear you. I agree that a few items do need clarification and reworking. The Keeping of Animals Working Group is scheduled to meet again tomorrow morning. I want to reiterate that throughout that process, both Darren and Ray have agreed. We've been in total consensus throughout the months we have worked together across the board. We have, I believe, or tried to work in good faith up to now, and we will continue to do so.
All right, so now I'm going to start going through.
Put your face close to the mic.
So now I'm going to start going through the names on the list. Again, just I'm going to read your name, but please come up and identify yourself. John Ciccatelli.
Okay, we good? My name is John Ciccatelli, and I am the Director of Public Health. I have been for 28 years, 6 of those years as Director here in Westport. I've been writing regulations for that amount of time, including animal regulations, one of which is referenced in this regulation. I just want to start off by saying I'm not against a regulation that ensures the health and safety of both animals and the population of Westport. I am, however, not totally in favor of this regulation. This regulation goes over and above our rights as citizens, and I'll go into that in more detail in a minute. It also is extremely redundant. Going through this several times, I have found not a single tool that is being given to the board that it does not already possess. Many of those tools are through the Department of Agricultural Resources, some of them through the bond book situation, although it does not cover all animals. It covers the bulk of animals that need to be registered in the town. And that book, that information in that book, is extremely accessible to the public. It's public record. You just need to make the phone call, and they'll be more than happy up at DAR to give you that information. Let me give you a quick example of what I'm talking about. And this is what bothers me most about this regulation. As I said, I'm not against this regulation. I'm not against the Board of Health in any way, obviously. I work for one. This is what I am against, and we make sure in all of the boards that I've worked on that we don't violate this. The right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrants shall issue but upon probable cause, supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be searched and the persons or things to be seized. This may seem like it's unrelated to an animal regulation, but I found over several places in this regulation that the board is somehow and for some reason wanting to get on people's property without, and I will quote, without notice at any time. And that is totally against this Fourth Amendment constitutional right that we've all been guaranteed. If you were to remove that, all of the references to that supposed right that you have given yourself, and it is not a right that the board has, if that was to be removed, I would be far more in favor of supporting a lot of the provisions in this regulations. In the town I currently work in, which is not a right to farm town, I wrote a regulation not unlike this one. We didn't take 10 pages to write it. We took 2 pages to write it. It does almost exactly the same thing, but it respects people and their rights to own animals and to have privacy in their homes. And I have offered on several occasions to assist this board to help with this with their regulation. Unfortunately, no one seems to be interested in helping. The offer is still good. But the bottom line is, the places where the regulation is very detailed is far too detailed, and then there are other places like public health of the animals. That's a pretty general term. It doesn't mean an awful lot unless you define exactly what you're talking about. In your preamble it's mentioned, but that's all. It's just mentioned. It doesn't tell us what you're talking about. So there are also other notes in the regulations, such as websites that are available. And I've gone to all those websites, and only one of them actually gives any resources that any farmer or pet owner could use. Some of them are password protected. Some refer to prisoners in their cells and the keeping of prisoners. I'm sorry, but I just don't get how that relates to an animal regulation. Anyway, before I run out of my time, I would like to congratulate the board on attempting to do the right thing. I just would ask that they think a little harder and try not to do what they're responsible to do, and not to take any rights that don't belong to them. Thank you.
All right, thank you, John. Karen Gonzalez. Is Karen here?
Guys hear me? No? Can you hear me now? I got a big mouth. I've had animals off and on throughout my whole life. Cows, horses, chickens, I've done it all. And you know, I always wondered, what the heck does that sign mean? Westport is a right to farm community. If you Google what that means, I'm going to read it to you in case you haven't done that. The right to farm laws vary across the nation. They are intended to bolster the legitimacy of agricultural concerns, defend farmers' rights without undue outside interference, and minimize or resolve public and private land use conflicts. In a broader sense, the notion originally referred to relief from all kinds of undue interference, usually involving legal interpretations focused on nuisance issues such as noise, odors, environmental, visual farm technology, etc. So basically, that's there to protect your rights to have animals, okay? Despite the fact that your neighbor doesn't like that, okay? So this kind of runs contrary to everything the right to farm community stands for, basically, okay? Some of the stuff in there, like manure runoff, what the heck? People have used manure on their fields since Fred Flintstone had a car. And all of a sudden you want to plan for the manure runoff? Come on.
Okay, so I would say by way of education, the town has a bylaw, a right to farm bylaw, and I would just suggest people read that bylaw, because that was the bylaw that we referred to and looked at while we were writing these regulations. And it's worth it to read it and to understand what authority local boards of health have under the right to farm regulation. And I think that we did try in many ways to accommodate that very specifically, that got discussed in, in the development of the regulation. And there are specific references to the agricultural exemptions for nuisances, the state agricultural exemption. There's references to generally accepted farm practices in order to look at how the standards would be applied. All structures are grandfathered. There's nothing against applying manure to fields, for example. But there is concern about where you're dumping or storing manure next to a drinking water well, or whether the runoff is going directly into water bodies. There's an existing manure management regulation that's been on the books for years that that directly relates to this and is referenced in the regulation. So just to say that there's really nothing new in here in some of these regards. It was a matter of just pulling it together. Okay, so Howard, what do you think that is? Ronald? There's a gentleman who lives on Gifford Road.
I can't read it.
Yeah, it's hard to read. Impreza? Oh, that's you.
Laprise.
Oh, okay, sorry. I apologize. And can I just say one thing, that I appreciate your talking to the audience. Just make sure that you've got enough turn so that we can also hear you over here.
I would talk right at you.
Okay, great.
So, I would disagree with your comments about the bylaws as far as the right to farm community specific to Massachusetts. Moreover,
Yeah, you gotta speak up.
I'd like to disagree. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I'd like to disagree with the bylaws of the right to farm specific to Massachusetts. I brought 100 copies of the right to farm. Anybody wants them, they're in that box. I also brought 100 copies of your Fourth Amendment that have been discussed already. This document violates, I think, both of them. I know both of them. And whether the legalities that you want to discuss apply or not, we would love to get on this round table, this whole group of we keep hearing about, because the commercial farmer has not been invited to these conversations. Boards have, representation has. I watched the hour and 34-minute video in 11 seconds, and the agricultural didn't agree with it. They kept being talked around things and nothing was ever answered. And the word may in this document is a very important word, because may says, once we vote this, we'll enact all this other stuff without you later. So anybody that has not watched that video, I encourage you to do so. Please do so. Because they're trying to ruin the commercial farmer in Westport, Massachusetts. We're not a tenant farmer. We weren't on the Channel 12 News. We don't go home and treat our animals bad. We're up before dawn, we go to bed after dusk. We're taking care of our animals, we're taking care of our land, we're taking care of our families. We shouldn't be ridiculed or persecuted for that. That said, I also take exception to the statement of the chair of Westport Board of Health on the draft of keeping the animals. We weren't mistaken or misinterpreted what is written in black and white. That's an insult to our intelligence. It reads what it reads. None of it, and I mean none of it, makes sense, is in logic, or is even in agreements with itself. I do appreciate you stating that you will not invade our privacy. However, it's not enacted on and it's not documented. I'd like that documented. I would like to know, other than feces, how cows pollute. I watched the video and there's a whole conversation about how animals pollute.
Animals.
I pick up, if I may, I may. If I pick up all the trash that's in front of my yard, in front of my farm, in front of my property, that's going down the stream, that's going down the gutter, and put it in my trash barrel, I'm limiting polluting. I'm not adding to it. Please.
I just didn't hear the word that you were saying when you...
How cows pollute. I'm not sure how cows pollute other than feces. I get the feces. Specific to the feces, you have a new regulation regarding equines. Same kind of size animal, same kind of, I think they probably go to the bathroom about the same amount of times during the day. There is one item that is relevant to equines. I brought the regulations. There are 3 items in totality, and by the way, that entire document is 2 1/4 pages, ours is 10. There's one item specific to equines. If I can find it. I'm limited to 3 minutes, so I'm trying to rush. Here it is. Equine regulation consists of 1, 2 1/4 pages. The manure control for equines, again, they used to be part of the farm and now they're different, is there are 3 items. 6.1 is regarding stables. 6.2 is regarding stables. 6.3, manure shall be stored at least 50 feet away from the property boundaries and 100 feet away from the existing well. All equines shall be tested annually. That's it. That's the whole manure program. We have 3/4 of a page. What's the difference? There's no fee schedule. The document talks about a fee schedule. Here's the fee schedule for the town of Westport Board of Health. Cattle's not listed here yet. If you watch the video, again, I can't encourage you enough, they're going to slip that in after. You got a grandfather clause. Doesn't say anything, but it's in there. If a registration happens to go through, I would like there to be a box, a grandfather box. You check one box, you're done filling out the application.
So you're at 4 minutes now, just to let you know.
Excuse me?
I say you're at 4 minutes now, just to let you know, just in terms of...
Thank you for your time. I could go on all night. I could take apart every piece of this document. I'd be more than willing to be part of the "we" in Westport and sit around the round table. I'd love to
Okay.
be part of that. Thank you.
Very good. And just to say that people who want to continue to testify can come up after we go through it, okay? I just want to give everybody an opportunity to speak. Okay, Philip Plant, oh no, excuse me, Kathy Nemitz. Katie? Sorry.
Hi. I stand on the farmer's side as somebody that grew up this way. I grew up in this town. I fully support this farming and I support the community. And we're usually too busy to show up, unfortunately. I had to get somebody else to cover my chores tonight just to be here. So there's a lot wrong with this regulation. I don't think it's necessary. I think as someone who's already part of the barn book, that it's doing a great job. I think we are the animal advocates. We are here, every day, 365 days, we are supporting our animals and our lifestyle. And I think it's just an unnecessary duplicate thing of something that's already happened. And it's happening now, and it's working. And I think the tenant farm regulation that went into effect March 1st, I can see how that's good for the town, that's fine. But this is just, going into something that's unnecessary, and it doesn't even need to be in place. So, I've read the regulations, I've passed it on, other people have really thought about it too, and they find a lot wrong with it. And, we are here for our animals, we hear you, we are in support of, our animals, and we love them, and we love this town. So, that's it.
Thank you. Philip Plant.
Can everybody hear me? Beautiful. So I'm the third generation to have this name in this town. My family, my relatives on both sides of my family were farmers in this town for many, many years. And due to special interests in water pollution and so on and so forth, they are no longer milking cows on Drift Road. The entire stuff that in the draft that you have worked with the Ag Board, and some of us even here today are guilty of not supporting Ray as much as we should have. But now the fact that we know about it, I think everybody in this room here is going to support you. There's not too many people in this room that support you. This room that I can sit out here and look at faces I've known for the 30 years I've lived in this town are faces of people that have taught me how to take care of animals long beyond the past of making sure the cow is fed. The people that actually are sitting here in this room today are the people you need to listen to, not the people that moved into town, not someone who has a fucking, someone who, has an agenda. The people that are actually in this town every day that wake up and ask the person, someone comes into town, I buy a house next to you and you have a farm. My apologies. I'm not a good public speaker, I'm sorry.
Can you speak into the mic, please?
Is that any better?
It is.
Beautiful. Well, the people in this town that are sitting here, these are the people that you need to listen to. Like I said before, I don't know if anyone heard me, I gotta backtrack because I don't know where you are or where I am, but the people that are sitting here, that's the one that they taught you things. Just because someone comes in and someone doesn't like it, what happened on 177 is a tragedy. I don't want to see that happen, but I also want to make sure that the laws and the regulations that go into place are going to make sure that when I have my kids and my kids grow up, that I'll be able to teach them the same values that I learned when I grew up in this town. all the stuff that's coming in this draft is making this town go far away from what it ever was hundreds of years ago. Yeah, everyone says, oh, it's a right to farm community. And this town was a right to farm community long before there was a bylaw, long before there was a sign. I mean, I've lived in this town almost 30 years, and I can drive around, I can point at people's homes, some people that are in this room, and go, I used to pick hay in your front yard. I used to pick rocks in that guy's backyard. So that's something that we're trying to save, or you're trying to preserve the animals, or whatever. It's just, in my personal opinion, some of the people I've talked to, it's just going the opposite way. I mean, I like to do whatever I can, and talk wherever I can to be part of some board or some commission to come to some resolve for, our side of this, to work together and make this, something that's going to be feasible for both sides. That's just what I get to say.
So Ray is Elias.
Good evening, my name is Ray Elias. I live on Holly Lane. I am, let's see, I am licensed through the board, stable permit for 10 horses, which Donna has inspected on a regular basis for quite some time. I don't even have one horse there now. Hasn't been, in case I want to have my granddaughters have a horse one day, or maybe run the show one day. You never know how that's going to end up. Second thing, I'm part of 61A. I agree with everything that's been said so far. I agree with the fact that the Board of Health, in good faith, tackled the tenant farm regulation. What went on 177 put a black mark on all of our faces. As someone who has been out there making hay and not knowing what he was doing in the beginning and learning from the elder gentlemen that some of them are not here today. I learned through their experiences, and after last Thursday night's meeting, I went home, and my phone is a wealth of information for an older gentleman. Even when I was coaching, with my 25 years or 30 years of coaching, every parent used to say, Ray, you got to get email. You can't call them all in the same night. But I will say this. I did look up all the laws that are listed in any one of these papers. I've been reading for 5 days on my phone. I can't even see too good anymore. But I will say this. I stand in opposition of this regulation for this reason only. The Right to Farm Act has been, I believe it's been since 2004. It has everything that this board could possibly use, or any other board in town, Zoning Board of Appeals, Planning Board, Conservation Commission, listed from the MDAR. Also in the Right to Farm Act, ours is an opportunity for anyone in the town to make a complaint on any farm that they wanted to. There is a provision at the end of the bylaw in the Right to Farm Act in Westport that designates that. These guys have all the power to do the things that they want to do without this regulation. They don't even need it, in my opinion. If my ex-wife was here, she would probably curse about this. I believe that my cows are smarter than the horses ever could be. I could probably ride one if I tried, okay? But I don't want to do that at my age. I have a bond book inspection every year, and I don't believe that I have one complaint in front of this board. And there are many people in this audience that have never been complained on with farm animals throughout their life. And I know they're around the room. I encourage this board to try to find a way to know where the animals are, which there's enough information in this town through 61A, through complaints that are listed, and still be private in doing that. In closing, I'll say one other thing. We have a Right to Farm Act. We have an Ag Commission that's supposed to be overseeing it and advising other boards. My son, who works for the Department of Revenue, was educated in this town. He decided to move into a farm community recently, and he bought a place in Harvard, Mass. And his first letter that he had in one of his, after he bought his house, came from the Ag Commission. By the way, you live in a Right to Farm community. There's going to be noise pollution. There's going to be smells. The slow-moving vehicle is going to be in front of you on the road. All of those things are in our Right to Farm Act. In their Right to Farm Act, I noticed the difference that since 2006, since they've had this, they've made amendments to theirs. One of those amendments is to actually protect farms. Another one is similar to the agro-tourism complaints that we have now, some of them. They address that. But we're talking about a community who's trying to save their last farms, because we're talking about a community that's 25 miles west of Boston. And I did all of that research within 5 days. I encourage people, type in Massachusetts General Laws 128, Massachusetts General Laws 111, 310 CMR. Check them out and see what it does for farms. And I guarantee you, it's everything that this thing says, and then some, and we already have all of that in the Right to Farm Act. Thank you.
Judy Devine. Can you hear me?
Can you hear me now? Very good. I'm not here as a farmer. I'm here as someone who grew up in this town, and my heart goes out to every farmer in this room this evening, because this is crucial to your survival. And for those who do not understand, farming is a dirty, smelly, fly-filled business. No farm, no food. And I cannot speak eloquently on this subject, and I don't try to, but please listen. This is a slippery slope, ladies and gentlemen. We already have regulations in place, and thank you to the board for all the hard work you have done, because certainly you have put many hours into this. But I will tell you quite honestly, I was totally unaware of this issue until a few weeks ago, and you've been working on this for years. I'm not the only one in this room who was unaware of this. So to express surprise at the numbers that you see here this evening, there's certainly a reason for it. Susan Lady. That's all I have to say, because everyone else has spoken eloquently.
William Shaw. Is that right?
Can everybody hear me? All right. So I've been living in Westport my whole life, 30 plus years. Lived on a farm my whole life. Always had animals, vegetables, whatever. It's a big way of life. It's a big cycle. Never had any complaints. Never had any sick animals. I believe everybody else pretty much hit the nail on the head. There's enough regulations out there. Everything's already covered. So as manure goes, we recycle that. Put it in the garden, compost it, spread it around. And a big problem with the runoff, a lot of people spreading fertilizers on your lawn. It's the same thing. Why not go natural? That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Is there a William Shaw Jr., or is that just one? That's, just the name appears twice on the list, so I couldn't quite be sure. William Shaw left. I was Jr., sorry. Okay. Kyle, I'm going to mess up the last name, but DeRosie? Okay.
Everybody hear me? I don't have much to say.
Can you just
said it all.
hang on, Kyle? Can you just state your name, because I didn't get it right?
My name's Kyle DeRoges.
Oh, okay,
I've
good.
been living in town 30 plus years, along with Billy there. Most of the farmers that live in town just stated it all tonight. All this is going to do is just hurt the local farmers. If you want to have a backyard farm or hide your animals, not take care of them, what's this going to do? Nothing. That's all I have to say about that. There's no reason why these guys here who have been farming or had 30 plus acres have a right to where they're going to put their manure or spread it. It's all natural. We can go out and put lime on our lawns and fertilizer and all that stuff. That all runs off into the drinking water, but that's okay. Everybody's got lush green lawns. That's all chemical, right? So do we regulate that? Or are we going to regulate a little bit of manure that's floating around? That just washes off. That's all I have to say. None of these guys here.
William Long. Well, I thought it was Long. William. It's on Division Road. L-O-A-G? Yeah, thank you.
Can anybody hear me? No? Nobody can hear me?
Can you say your name, please?
William Long, L-O-N-G.
Okay, thanks.
Okay?
Yeah.
I've lived in town basically my whole life. For 40 years, I raised all kind of poultry. When I read this regulations, okay, which I didn't know about until a week and a half ago. No place was I notified that there was a committee that was going to make up rules or anything else. It was never really publicized good. But I've been raising poultry, I raised poultry for 40 years. When I read these regulations, my first thought was, why am I going to be punished because of 177? And 177 wasn't once, it was twice. And now you want to do the whole town with people that have raised animals on their land. Now, people that raise animals on their own land, they want their animals to be healthy and to be prosperous. Right now, I'm raising just a few chickens for myself, for eggs, for meat. And when I read these regulations, I took it for an insult to me because you're telling me I don't know how to raise animals. That's all I got to say.
Lee Tripp. She's not here today? No. Oh, okay. Mike Lees. Not here tonight? Yeah, I'm just trying to Trying to get the next name, sorry. What do you think about this? Charlie, is there? Charlie Ray?
Drift Road?
On Drift Road? Last name, maybe Lab or Black? Okay. Greg Andrade?
He's here.
Hello? Okay. My name is Greg Andrade. I'm fourth generation hog farmer, probably the biggest in Westport. I'm running right now close to 200 animals. This farm, my farms run up to 800 animals. And I'm also a graduate from Bristol Aggie. Let me start saying our rights are endowed by our Creator. Our Creator grants rights not to animals, but as a farmer, we respect and care the welfare of our animals that serve us. We believe that animals, if you believe that animals have the rights, is the belief that animals cannot be owned. Our Creator also believes that the government is the problem, along with the founders of this America. Creating more regulations makes government more powerful, and it takes away people's rights, liberties in America. America was founded on individual rights and responsibilities. The concept of punishing and restricting people for liberties due to other people's bad behavior is unjust and morally wrong. Some people might consider these acts communistic, which caused cities and nations to fail in past history. Recent regulations have cost my farm money and hurt the welfare of my hogs. I've lost use of 6 acres of land, of pasture. It hurts the access of fresh feed to my animals and my hogs. This is what regulations do. Farms run on a tight budget. Farms sell, the pound of hogs is the same price it was 30 years ago when me and my grandfather were running it. Yet the equipment triples. The cost of regulations costs us more money. We're about to break here. You can't do this. You know, those who want animal abuse, those who want the animal abuse to stop, call your state rep. Ask for a bigger penalty. These individual abuse of animals is not right. Please don't make Westport farmers and residents pay for other people's crimes. Thank you.
Okay. I'm just hesitating because I think there are people who, I've got like kind of like a double list, but then it goes on, so I'm just trying to figure out who we've already heard from and who we haven't. Okay, Sherry Mahoney?
For those who don't know me, I'm Sherry Mahoney, and I see a lot of respect for Westport farmers here tonight, and I think that's what this is all about. Everybody hear me okay? I'm not quite clear as to how animal abuse on a tenant farm became about regulating Westport farmers and animal owners, but somehow it did. The Board of Health inspected the tenant farm and did nothing, yet somehow local farmers have become the scapegoat in all of this. The more I heard about these regulations, the more I felt a rising sense of indignation at the lack of respect for our Westport farmers. I'm also wondering what qualities the Board of Health brings to the table that render them capable of dictating how animal care should take place in our town. The Westport Board of Health has taken the position that all of the people opposing their proposed regulations have been misinformed. Are we all misinformed? No. I think it's more likely that we've been misled. Many people in town think the keeping of animals regulations being currently proposed are directed towards the tenant farms responsible for the animal cruelty case on Route 177. To the contrary, the current keeping of animals regulations are geared towards local farmers and even backyard enthusiasts that have a few animals in their backyard. The keeping of animal regulations will require you to register your animals, dictate how they are cared for, and allow an agent or designee to inspect your property with or without prior notice. Additionally, regulations regarding tenant farmers were implemented on March 1st without opposition from local farmers. The regulations currently being proposed raise several concerns, the first of which is a tiny little thing known as the Fourth Amendment of the U.S. Constitution, which provides the right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrant shall issue but upon probable cause, supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be searched. The Board of Health has stated that they won't be entering anyone's homes, but I'm pretty sure that coming onto someone's property uninvited goes against the Fourth Amendment. Secondly, there is the Westport Right to Farm Law, which states that no local zoning bylaw may prohibit, unreasonably regulate, or require a special permit for the use of land for the primary purpose of agriculture. This general bylaw section encourages the pursuit of agriculture, promotes agriculture-based economic opportunities, and protects farmland within the town of Westport by allowing agricultural uses to function with minimal conflict with abutters and town agencies. This bylaw was implemented to avoid the micromanagement of farms by town agencies, the result of which would have a diminishing effect on local farms. The proposed regulations against animal owners represent an unconstitutional encroach against every person's right to farm in Westport. Are we willing to sacrifice our farms and allow government agency overreach? Westport is an amazing farming community. In fact, the homepage for the town of Westport states as its logo, the Coastal Agricultural Resource Community of New England. Currently, farmers and animal owners are governable under Mass Department of Agricultural Resources Division of Animal Health, the USDA, Westport Police Department, Westport Agricultural Board, and the Board of Health. Next to fishing, farming is perhaps one of the most closely regulated enterprises. The heart of Westport lies in its farms, and we live in a community surrounded by beautiful farms that feed our town. I believe the farmers and animal owners in Westport are the true animal advocates in our village. These are the people that spend every day caring for and feeding their animals, and we should not allow one case of animal cruelty by tenant farmers, most of which were not even Westport residents nor representative of the quality of farmers in our town to define the face of farming in Westport. I think the farmers in our town have earned and deserve our respect. Thank you.
Ann McPherson. Excuse me.
Okay. Can you hear me? Wonderful. Okay. I've been a property owner and lived in Westport for on and off for almost 50 years. I have 27 acres that is agricultural. I keep chickens, ducks, and geese, and I I take really good care of my animals. This thing is, this keeping of animals regulation is a total insult to farmers and those who keep livestock in Westport. It has come from the whole tenant farm thing, and now it's targeting everybody in our right to farm community. Farmers operate on small margins. Now they're going to be charged fees and be subject to inspections without the property owner's presence. So, who's responsible if the inspector contaminates my property because we don't know where else this person has been, and if my animals get sick as a result? Who's responsible if this person comes on my property when I'm not home and decides they want to open up my chicken coops and my chickens fly out over the fence? Those animals are all subject to predation. With 27 acres, we've got plenty of that going on. And who's going to be responsible for that? Who's going to be watching out for my animals? Okay? How will all these regulations affect a family who moves to Westport and wants to grow food, maybe keep a few animals, teach their children or grandchildren where their food comes from, and how to take personal responsibility for another sentient being? Our town was founded on farming and fishing. I'm all for preserving the natural beauty of our town and its resources. People in New Bedford can keep chickens, just no roosters, without dealing with all the crap in this regulation. This proposal is targeting the wrong people, and it's outright discrimination against our farmers.
Excuse me, Nancy Lamontage. No. This is a person who lives on Old Bedford Road, on Division Road. No, I'm sorry, I actually jumped. Oh, so these are two people. One is both the same address, David Charest and Nancy on Old Bedford Road. Not here?
No, here. He's there.
Okay, so you heard Greg? Oh, he's coming. I'm sorry.
What was his name again? Your name is not Nancy.
It's David.
David, okay.
I am Dave Charest. I just want you to know, I didn't know about this whole situation till last Saturday. The publicizing of this should have been more intense. Because I have animals, and I don't want to lose them. That's it.
Okay, got Greg, Mary Wheaton. Oh, I'm sorry, I saw someone stand up, but...
Walked out.
Oh, walked out, okay. Rebecca DeMello? Rebecca DeMello? Charlie Mello?
He's here.
My name is Charlie Merrill. I have a small farm in Westport with a dozen sheep. and some chickens and turkeys, and I strongly oppose these regulations. I think they represent extraordinary government overreach, and I think they create a tax on a community that desperately doesn't need it. I think that it is difficult enough to farm. I think I'm fortunate that I don't have to earn my living farming. My 9-to-5 job is in Fall River. But I get home, and from 5 to 9, I work on the farm. On the weekends, I work on the farm. I moved to Westport because it's a right farm community. I moved to Westport because I grew up on a farm, and I learned how to work on a farm. I learned the values of work, and I learned all of the things that have helped me be successful in my life, many of them, on a farm. And I'm raising these kids on a farm and teaching them the same things. And I think it's critical that a town like Westport support the small farms, the non-commercial farms, in addition to the commercial farms. There's an ecosystem that we all participate in. I buy my feed from Ray and Tina from Wilkie's. There aren't enough of us that are spending money on farming in the community as it is. Having farmers move out of the community threatens every one of us. Creating regulations that push anybody out of a delicate ecosystem threatens every one of us. And for all of the small farmers who don't have commercial upside to farming, but do it for the values, do it for why farming matters to our families, I want to say that this regulation it has unintended consequences, as all regulations will. And those unintended consequences, they're not known, but they could hurt every one of us. The consequences of those regulations in allowing somebody to come up my drive when I'm not there, in creating regulations that create real liability for me without there being commercial upside, I will get rid of my farm. I will get rid of those sheep. I will get rid of those chickens. I can't risk myself, my family, from being over-regulated, from having people coming into my property without invitation, just because I want to farm and teach my kids values. So I would say that from my perspective, over-regulating a community that doesn't need that regulation, a community that's proven for years and years and years to do just fine, but for a tenant farm on 177. It's the beginning of an erosion of support for farmers in this area. And what this town should be doing is supporting them. And what I'd like to just finish saying is that what farmers need is support. We need help from this town to grow our farms. We need help with fencing. We need help with grants. We need help having bigger and better farms and growing a very unique thing in the south coast of Massachusetts. And I would hope these regulations don't pass, that these regulations are turned into something that's constructive for farmers, and that we get the support from the Board of Health in the town of Westport so that we can keep our farms and we can make them healthy. Thank you.
I think it's Jean, but McCain and, what do you say? McBride?
No? How's that? Right there, huh? Good. Ditto to what was just said before me, okay? Again, my name is Patrick McBride. I'm not a farmer. I moved to Westport because it's a farming community. It's a charming community. Let's not be an alarming community, okay? I'm a value-based individual who works from his home. I keep some chickens. I have a few goats. I have 5 kids that I want to teach the value of raising animals safely, healthy, and understanding where their food comes, from the garden and from those hens. I appreciate what the board has done with these restrictive regulations as a first draft. They need to change. They're misleading and they're misinforming us. This is not 177. The tenant farm has been addressed. Let's move off that. This is not swine and equine. Those have been addressed. They should not even have been referenced in the chairman's review here. Access, totally inappropriate. Totally inappropriate. It's conflicting in these both of these two letters, the letters and the agreement, or the regulation. So, as you can tell, I don't have any prepared statements, but when I read this, I was distraught. I was upset, and so was my family. I will be part of that We Are Westport, because I will sit and do what I can to make changes that help not only the farmers, but everyone who is a backyard farmer. A lot of these people here, I don't know. I'll tell you that I've purchased and worked and hire a lot of these farmers, and I'm going to continue to be able to do that, because it's a delicate balance between what they do, what I do, and what the town does. Thank you.
Okay, Pat McBride? That was me. Oh, sorry. Okay. Stephen, I can't read the last name. On Sodom Road? Or, anyway.
Steve Medeiros.
Steve Medeiros, okay.
Board of Assessors.
How you doing? My name's Steve Medeiros, born and raised, third-generation farmer at one time in this town. For those of you that didn't grow up in this town, I think you really need to know how fragile the agricultural industry is from what it was when we grew up. We sat around in my backyard one day with a few friends. We started down the harbor, and we started counting. Now, we weren't old-timers. At the time, we were probably all in our mid-50s. We counted 54 dairy farms that we remember operating in this town. There's 4 left. I'm going to give you a dramatization, just so I looked around the room. How many people in this room at one time made a living milking cows? Stand up. Stand up. If you milk cows for a living at one time, stand up. How many people worked on farms that didn't own farms? Stand up. How many people that worked on farms that didn't own them in this town? Stand up. How many dairy farmers left in the room? There's my point. There's my point. We got 4 dairy farms left in this town. 4 commercial dairy farms. We had 54 when I was a kid. I remember my dad always telling me we had more cows in this town. They used to say that at one time. We got more cows in this town, we do people. We had more cows in this town than any other farm in the state for years, right up into the 80s. A lot of us went out in mid-80s during the buyout. That's when most of us went out of business, 86. We went out because economic, we just couldn't hang in there. I don't know how the guys that are in there, I give them credit. What's that? What are you doing all the manure? What did I do with the manure? I had a manure pit. I had a manure pit that was designed by the state that held 100 cows for 100 days. So in the wintertime, we didn't have to go out and spread manure. But you guys all know, right? They're saying you can't store manure. If you were a real commercial dairy farm and you got all those cows every day, you take a day like this spring, you ain't going to get out and spread manure. I don't care how big or horsepower, how many tires are on that tractor. You're not getting on them fields every day to spread manure. That manure is going to have to be stored at some point on the farm. Got to be stored properly, yes. But saying no storage of manure, that's one thing that really bothered me. I just think that these laws to restrict that can hurt and restrict farmers more than there already has. Take a look at our town flag. Farming, fishing, family life. For those who didn't grow up in this town, I've been an assessor for 24 years. I've heard people, I've gone to their houses and measured up their beautiful $700,000-$800,000 house. God bless you, we love your tax money. They're great houses. Why did you come to town? Just like these last 2 gentlemen got up and said, we came here because it was a farming community. This is what we wanted for our family. This is what we needed for our family. It's disappearing. Go to Buttonwood Park, they got cows. Didn't have to have cows in Buttonwood Park 30 years ago because they were around here. Now they're in Buttonwood Park. I don't want to have to bring my grandkid to Buttonwood Park to see cows.
So I think this is the last person I have, which is Carla Lee Sampson.
Hi, Carly Sampson. I've been in this town for 30 years and I love it. I love it because it's a farming community. I love it because it's a farming community, and I've watched it disappear. And that's only in 30 years. And this is all I have to say. I feel that this is the Board of Health's attempt to save face for what happened on 177. And that's all this is about.
Oh, okay, thank you. So, does anybody want to speak? Okay.
Good evening. I submitted this, by the way, to the Board of Health yesterday, so I don't know what happened to those, but I'm going to read.
I'm sorry, what is your name, please?
It's Tammy Shirtliff. Can everybody hear me? No? Okay. I know I can project my voice, so let me try harder. My name is Tammy Shirtliff. I've been a resident of Westport for 20 years. I was born and raised in neighboring Little Compton. My family has owned and operated a farm and a slaughterhouse my entire life. I know all about an animal's life, trials, and death very well. I make my living caring for animals, all kinds of animals. I have even cared for some of yours. I give and believe that all animals are deserving of decent quality care. However, when dealing with animals, things happen. It doesn't mean we're negligent, nor does it reflect abuse. It simply means that they're animals, whether they're livestock or pets, they're not human. They cannot always convey, nor do they always want to convey that something is wrong, and sometimes, despite our very best efforts, things just happen. I am absolutely in support of good, quality care for all animals. I have volunteered for years. I fought for feral cats and their right to a life. I have rescued the tiniest of kittens from freezing to death. I have bottle-fed an entire litter of beagle puppies, no larger than a hot dog, for 2 weeks, and while doing this, expressed the mother's milk so she could resume nursing her litter when the toxins from one stillborn pup cleared her system. I have nursed a rabbit with sore hocks back to good health. I have sat with a dog while she took her last breath in my lap as she lost her battle with congestive heart failure. I have dealt with a pregnant goat with a vaginal prolapse and brought her to full term and delivered her live babies with absolutely no harm occurring to that mother or her kids. All of these things are hard work, and all these things I have done for the love of animals. And I am here to say that 100% of the people in this room on my side of this fence would do the very same thing. It is the people that are here, that are not here, the people who are responsible for the horrific abuse and neglect that took place in this, our lovely town. They are the people that do not care, and they are the people that should be prosecuted. It is amazing to me that all of this work and not one of the situations that occurred would be pertinent in the institution of this regulation, because they are all exempt. I would suggest that the rules and regulations that are already in place be enforced rather than developing new ones that are an insult to 99% of the animal owners in this town. It would only place undue stress on the few true working farms we have left. I would also suggest that credit be given to the residents of this town to know what is quality care for their animals. We are all individuals, and so the definition of quality care may differ from person to person. However, that does not mean it's wrong. It is just simply reflects the individualism within our community. I am proud to be a resident of this wonderful farming town, and I resent that because of a few people, we are now all labeled as ignorant, neglectful, and abusive. My point in a nutshell is this. If someone wants to do the bad thing, they're going to do the bad thing, obviously. And adding more regulation to the town is not the way of stopping it. Enforcing the regulations we already have is the place to start. Thank you.
So I saw that gentleman there, and then there's another gentleman there, and the woman in the back.
Hi, Paul Sampson.
What is your name, sir?
Paul Sampson.
Paul Gramson?
Sampson.
Sampson, okay.
No P.
Oh, sorry.
I've been, most of the time in my life, I've been quiet. Occasionally I get riled up. This whole hoopla that we're doing here, in my opinion, seems to be coming from this landmark abuse case. The question I had for the board, or Matt, one or the other, is since that 2016, how many cases of animal abuse has there been since? Does anyone have that answer?
So, I can only speak to the cases that have come. No, well, I'm not talking about animal abuse, because that. So let me try to answer the question the best way I can. So there is through the barn book, inspections and follow-up where the animal inspector thinks that there have been violations. We're not generally privy to that. We don't know about those, so I can't speak to those, okay? Because that information is kept confidential. I mean, once a violation happens, yes, but it's not something in the normal course unless we know about it and know to ask about it. We don't have that. So I can't. You'd have to speak to Donna about that. In the time that I've been on the board, the two that most come to my mind are two piggery cases. Okay, one in which the farmer left a dead pig and the other pigs cannibalized it. And that resulted in a quarantine. The other one was when the pig farmer was feeding uncooked meat to the pig. That resulted... I can't quite hear that, but let me just finish what I'm saying. So that also resulted in a quarantine, because both of those situations presented public health threats. We have also had numerous situations, this is not animal abuse, but of course numerous situations where we get complaints that animals are, roaming on the highway because, they've broken out of confinement or haven't been confined. So, so, I mean, so that's the answer, that's the quick answer.
All right, so basically what you're saying is, since this animal abuse case, there really hasn't been that large of a problem. There's violations, yes, everybody has violations.
Right.
Animals die on farms, I realize that. I grew up on a farm. I've been in farm for 7 years. What I'm saying is all this is going on because of one thing that happened in 2016, which even the courts haven't really settled yet. So are we doing all this for nothing and causing more problems, which it seems like it is to me? And that's all I got to say. Thank you.
So yeah.
All right, let's see if this works. Can everybody hear me?
Yeah.
No?
So what is your name again, sir?
Justin Laprise.
Justin Labrie.
Is it better if I just do this? So I'm new here. Most of you don't know me. To most of you, I'd probably be, a city person, never worked on a farm. My dad's been here for about 10 years, bought a property, and from an outsider's perspective, it's very easy when you live in a town that's not a right-to-farm community, or when you sit on a board, or when you sit in an office, to sit and look at regulations and say, well, this may or may not happen, this should not happen, we should enforce all these regulations. Coming into this community and seeing how these people work and seeing how much dedication and effort it takes to have a successful farm, raise these animals, take care of them, take care of their families, and probably work another job on top of it. I think it's ignorant and preposterous to sit and say that you can make all of these rules and regulations and circumvent the farmers in the community that do the work that needs to be done for you to have food on your table.
There are people in cities, Boston's right around the corner, Providence is right around the corner. People will pay good money to go into Whole Foods, see a picture of the farm their food came from, see the farmer that raised it, pay double the price for it than what you'd see at the stuff at Stop and Shop. So, in my opinion, this is just I hear a local government using an outlier and some outliers, some tragic horror stories, to circumvent rights and regulations of rights and freedoms of these farmers to do what they need to do, so that way everyone in this community can be served. This community can stay what it is and why people come here year after year to visit and see the farms and see the people who live here. That's the attraction of Westport. So before you go to a table, before you sit down and stamp this draft, you need to have these people at the table. I didn't know about this till 2 weeks ago. I'm 30 years old. I grew up with technology. If I was going to find it, I would have found it. I didn't know about this until 2 weeks ago, like most of these people. There needs to be more transparency about when these conversations are happening and taking into consideration the fact that these are the people who are up from 4 in the morning till 6 at night working their farms. So that's all I have to say. Thank you for hearing me out.
Okay, someone else, yep?
My name is Amy Lawton. I've been a resident of Westport since I was 5 years old. I'm a member of the Tripp family, and generations of my family have been dairy farmers. I was supported for years by dairy farming, and I have 3 objections to this regulation. The first one, I think, has been addressed commonly in the remarks of the people that have spoken before me. Most of them have addressed the overregulation, and I think that's what put so many of the farmers out of business over the years. The Milk Control Board controlled the prices of milk and put people at the point where they could no longer sustain their farms. But I have 2 other things I want to talk about. The second thing is the cost of implementing this regulation. People are going to have to pay, the farmers are going to have to pay to register their animals. And we, the taxpayers, are going to have to pay the cost of hiring people to, inspect these farms and enforce this regulation. And I think it's a tall order. So they would have to hire probably multiple people. And we're talking about salaries and fringe benefits and pensions. These are all things that I, as a taxpayer, do not want to be burdened with. The third point is, just as we have said about the tenant farmers, these are people that don't respect animals. These were people that didn't, they were neglectful. Do you think that the people that are going to own animals, that are going to be neglectful, are going to register their animals? Really? I have never known a serious farmer who neglected his or her own animals. And it's only the people that are not going to even bother to comply with these regulations that we have to worry about. And I want to thank all the farmers here for making Westport the community that it is. And I'm proud to be part of that group of people that have always respected Westport. And I wanted to come out tonight and show my support. Thank you.
Okay, is there anyone else who hasn't spoken yet? Go ahead.
Hello, my name is Laura Hadley. I am an attorney and I try to farm. I'm terrible at it.
Can you try the name again?
Laura Hadley.
Laura Hassan?
Hadley.
Okay.
So, at the end of the day, I'm terrible at farming, and I would starve if I had to rely on my own abilities there. The proposed regulations are a valid and valiant effort, and we have to respect basic constitutional norms. You can't take people's property or enter people's property without notice and a hearing. And the right to be heard before someone's animals are taken and someone's livelihood is potentially jeopardized. I mean, it's good. 4th, 5th, 6th, 9th, 10th, 11th, and 14th Amendment to the Constitution. Somewhere in there. I might have missed one. Just the U.S. Constitution. Basic constitutional rights need to be protected, and they need to be built into the regulatory structure, which they already are. And so specifically, it was 6, 7, 8, and 9 were most egregious. And it's important that we protect our animals, our farmers, our neighbors, and each other. Thank you.
Okay. Oh, one more?
More of just a question. All right, and a lot of things have been touched upon tonight.
Could you state your name, please?
Tom VR. And it's mostly just a question, I mean, we want to know. If you're going to inspect our properties, who? Who is that person? Okay? That wasn't stated. You say a designee. Who is that person? Is it a farmer? Is it somebody that knows something about animals? Or is it somebody just educated in a school? Tell us that first. And then say that you can go on just any phone call. We brought up a question.
I didn't hear the last.
Just go on any phone call, question about a nuisance, which you don't clearly define what a nuisance is. There's a lot of not limited to. Legally, I don't know how that stands. I would never sign a contract that said not limited to in it. Okay, these are questions we want to know. I have no problem with you coming onto my property. Tell me first. Give me 24-hour notice. And if that 24-hour notice is going to solve the problem, hey, problem solved. You don't need to go in and give a fine for it. If they fix the problem in that time, great. We want to know a few more things. We want to know, I mean, I'm speaking for everybody, I'm sorry, but I think we'd want to know who's coming onto our property, right? We want to know that they know something about farming. We want to know the person coming there to imply some sort of regulations. Regulations should be set forth within the farming community, and I know you guys are working on that, and it's a back and forth. Okay, but the inspector, that person that comes out, can't just be one person. We can't put this all on Donna. Okay? There's too many. If you're talking about the amount of animals that we're going to register, that needs to be more people involved in it. And I want to know who that is. I want to know that someone that's coming to tell me I'm doing something wrong that I grew up doing knows what they're talking about. Okay? I just want to know they want to have the background of it. I don't want this whole situation to be an you guys against us. It doesn't need to be an us against them. We can figure something out here, but the way that was written was really, really offensive. The way that is written leaves liberties beyond belief legally, and it gives no clarification whatsoever to all of us here of what you intend to do. And there's a majority of people in this room that do not have social media, that did not know this was going on until we went and told them. So right down to hiring another inspector, whoever that individual, that designee is going to be, everybody should be notified about that. Everybody should have an opportunity to do that. And that means not just social media. It doesn't mean just everything Westport. It doesn't mean those things we've gotten comfortable. It's about getting out, talking to everybody, full transparency throughout the process, not just an AgCom meeting. okay? Send out, tell people what you're doing. Do every aspect you can, all right? Let's not make it a battle here, all right? The registry, this whole thing came up out of something that very bad happened in this town. I think we've addressed the fact that that's already been addressed. Now you're asking for regulations on us, but you're not telling us anything about it. You're not giving us a definitive answer on anything. So how are we going to be not just against that? How are we just going to say, oh, okay. All right, well, yeah, sure, you can send somebody my property. I have no idea who it's going to be, whether it's somebody that's ever raised animals. I mean, just more clarification, narrow it down, get rid of the not limited to, and actually come with us to with something. And then we can have a conversation about it. Otherwise, it's going to be a whole long meeting that we all just sat through of us complaining of why we don't like it. What is wrong with it? Just figure that out first, and then bring it to the public, okay? With something other than just not limited to. Sorry.
Okay, so does anyone else want to speak? You can. I mean, people can speak again if they want, but there's just one person. Yeah. Have you spoken yet, or? No. Well, I just want to know if you've spoken yet. Okay.
Hi, my name's Ryan Kamara.
Ryan
Kamara.
Kamara. Okay.
I live on Main Road. Unlike most of the people here, I didn't grow up in this town. I've lived here for less than 10 years. I've farmed for only the past couple years. And fortunately, I was able to find my second passion in life, living in this town. I only grow 10,000 square feet of vegetables. I only have 60 chickens. I work a full-time job, and I don't make all my money off of that. But when you regulate people more than they should be, it turns them off of doing the things that they love, and then they leave. And when people leave a farming community, the only place that it can go is down. You turn farms into parking lots, into strip malls, and then you ruin what this town has been for so long. Those really nice plaques that you see on people's houses down at the point that say those houses have been there since the 17 or 1800s, those things go away, and they don't mean anything to people who want to build parking lots. Some of these people have moved here because they want to teach their children a better way of life. They want to move out of the city, and they want to learn something of value, of importance. And when you regulate the small farmers and the big farmers, they won't want to be here anymore. I want to be able to eventually make my living off of farming. And with more regulations, I won't do it here. I can't. And that's unfortunate. I live in a house that was built in the 1950s by my great-great-grandfather. What a shame that would be, to have to leave this town, to have to leave that house, because I can't afford to do it because I'm overburdened. It would be a very bad shame to have this town turn into something else other than what it is. And that's what will happen unless we find a balance. Farmers know that you have to have balance in life. If you don't have enough water, your crops don't grow. If you don't have enough fertilizer, they don't grow. You have to balance things in life. Maybe not all the regulations in this are bad. You need to work on them. You need to work with the people who they're going to affect, and you need to round out the sharp edges and allow the community to be a part of what you're trying to force on them, or else they'll resent the town, they'll resent the board, they'll resent the community that they grew up in, and you can't have that.
Okay, so before I ask people, I think who've, I apologize, because to speak again, I just wanted to, because there's an opportunity, because everyone is here, to respond just to some of the things, I've heard, and maybe the background to it, to some extent, is how did we get here? And you know, this is my perspective, and I agree that it's very unlikely, you know, that had you know, the 177 animal cruelty case, if that didn't happen, we probably wouldn't be here. But what came out of that was a recognition, you know, that that both the state and local people who were responsible had, you know, had failed in their responsibility, because this place was known and there had been a failure, and out of that, you know, came the Animal Action Committee. And out of that committee became a recommendation, you know, that the Board of Health should adopt a regulation to try to address this. And it went to the select board, and the selectmen said to the Board of Health, you know, you should see what you can do about this, because we regulate pigs and we regulate horses, but there are a lot of animals that the Board of Health doesn't regulate. And people have talked about those, you know, that those, you know, that they have those animals here. So you know, the previous board, the previous chair of the board, you know, made the point many times before the select board, which is that we would not move forward with a registry keeping of animals regulation until the board had more resources, and specifically had an administrative and had an inspector, a half-time inspector, to do, you know, to implement whatever regulation was written. So there was an assumption there that, you know, that the board at the local level, that we, the town, would not just defer to what the state was doing or not doing, but that we had a responsibility as a Board of Health and as a town to know where the animals are, and to be able to you know, make sure that they were being cared for. And I'm not saying anyone isn't caring for them, okay? That's the last thing on my mind. But, and as people pointed out, you know, we've heard that there are people who are raising animals that don't get barn book inspected. And so, in the interim, while we were looking to get those resources, we went forward and adopted the tenant farm regulations. And then we went to town meeting, and we proposed a budget to the selectmen, and the selectmen and the FinCom, the financial committee, approved that budget, and that budget had a position for a clerical person and a half-time inspector. And we went to town meeting, and town meeting voted to approve our budget. And so after that, you know, last April, we began to develop this regulation. And the regulation really has three parts to it, okay? And I do understand, and I think we've all heard very clearly, you know, that the farm community here feels that, you know, the regulation is oppressive in a variety of ways. And so the way I think about this is that there are three parts to the regulation, okay? One is the registration. So there's no permitting, there's no hearing. You can have as many animals as you want on your property or maintain them. We're only asking, or the regulation only asks, fill out a form that says how many you have, what kind they are, and how we can get in touch with you if there's an emergency. That's all. That's all the registration says. So... No, the registration part, that's all. That's the registration part, okay? So that was a primary objective, not only of the Board of Health, but of the police who we interact with, which is when there are animals that are loose, or that we don't have that information through the barn book inspections, okay? We don't plan to keep that confidential, but that is not available to us. And that was made very clear, and particularly on a timeline that we would want. Yes, maybe we could call up, MDR, or, but in any event, so that was the one thing, the feeling like the local Board of Health and public safety people should know where the animals were and what they were. So that...
Why is there a fee for that? That's right in there. That involves a fee.
I don't understand what you're saying?
Fee.
There's no fee. Okay. So let me talk about the fee part. Okay?
Is there not?
There's no fee. Wait. Okay. And I admit, okay. So I'm trying to be succinct about this. In retrospect, I did something in the interest of efficiency, which created confusion. And here's what I mean by that. If ever we were going to establish a regulation, a fee, okay, it would be a totally separate process than this, because all our fees are adopted by a separate regulation. But rather than having to go back and change this regulation, I said, well, if we establish a fee, you have to pay the fee, okay? That was done in retrospect. I shouldn't have done that. It was misleading, but there was a lot of back and forth about the fees, and I just figured, let's pass it over. I mean, and this goes to the issue that people raise, which is who is going to register? And I tried to make this from a registration point of view as simple as possible. So hang on just one sec. Okay. So the second part of it is the standards part of it. Okay. The performance standards that the regulation was saying should be met. So there were three sources for that. One is the existing regulations. Almost everything in there is tenant farm regulations, but tenant farms cover all kinds of animals. So there was a matter of from consistency, okay? The second is that Matt and I probably read through 30 or 40 other towns' regulations. And there's nothing unusual about these regulations, and in many instances they're less specific than many other towns. I mean, some other towns say you can only each animal has to have a certain amount of space, and they go through each animal and they say what amount of space that is. And the third source of information was feedback from Darren and from Ray and from the Agricultural Commission. And And we didn't get feedback that said, this is going to break farmers' backs, this is unreasonable. So, and those are all up for discussion, for sure. I mean, all of this is all up for discussion, okay? And the third part is the enforcement part of it, okay? And I understand now also that that wasn't handled as well as it could have been handled. Again, it was consistent, pretty much word for word with what the tenant farm regulation said.
But we're not tenant farmers.
Huh?
We're not tenant farmers.
Well, I'm just, but from a regulatory agency point of view, okay, when you're doing so, you know, if I'm inspecting a tenant farm and, you know, they have, you know, cattle, beef cattle on them, and then I'm expecting an owner-operated farm and they have beef cattle on them, why are there separate standards? Why? But it may not be right, but that was the principle. I'm just saying that's what I was saying. You know, people want government to be consistent. How come I'm not getting treated by government the same way that my neighbor is getting treated? Well, I'm willing to hear that. I'm just explaining a basic principle that we operate. You know, the other day I'm standing in my yard, and a car comes up, and it happens to be the health inspector. I mean, the building inspector, because I changed my box, my electrical box. I didn't get 24 hours notice. Okay, the guy just showed up and said, I want to go into your house to look at my box, to look at your electrical box. You know, if I didn't let him...
So therefore he asked for permission to check out your box, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so that's what we're getting at.
Right. So I understand that the regulation is not...
a little ridiculous?
Yeah, but let me...
Thank you.
No. I'm not saying it's ridiculous. But let me... hang on a second. Hang on a second. Let me read you something from...
Before you read that, could I have a minute to ask a question?
Yeah.
So, people started talking about fees, and you said that nobody mentioned anything about fees. But I'd like to say at the beginning of the meeting, one of the ladies over there said that there could be a $20 to $30 fee.
No, the thing was...
Now, wait a minute. Now, if it starts at $20 to $30, what's it going to be next year or the year after that? We're not in this to make money. We're in this to survive, to feed our family.
Right. But so there were two...
They took out the fee.
Well, so wait, let's not talk to each other. Yes, so let's not talk to each other. Yeah. Come on! Order! So let's not talk. But, you know, it would be disingenuous of me to promise you that any time in the future there would not be a fee. Okay? I mean, that wouldn't be right.
Well, just clarify it now.
But what I'm saying is now, you know, but what I'm saying now is whether or not there would be a fee would be a totally separate discussion. And the other reason that we chose not to address the fee is that we have no idea what costs are associated with this if it ever went forward. So I hear you're sensitive about the fee. I want to get to the inspection part and then people can respond, okay? So I just want to read a provision. I just want to read a provision of the state statute. Okay.
This is a first
And it deals with, it's Chapter 129, Section 7, dealing with entry on the premises. It says, for the purpose of inspecting and examining animals or the places they are kept, the director, any of his agents, or an inspector duly qualified may enter any building or part thereof, or any enclosure or place, and may examine or inspect such animals or places. Whoever prevents, obstructs, or interferes with such director, agent, inspector, or other person having authority in the performance of his duty, or whoever hinders or obstructs or interferes with making such inspection or examination, or whoever secretes or removes any animal for the purpose of preventing it from being inspected or examined, shall be punished by a fine of not more than $100 or by imprisonment, et cetera, for more than 2 months. So
Regulation, does it say that whatever this states, it cannot undo the Constitution?
Exactly. I totally agree with you about that.
You're going to pull the lawyer rules.
I totally agree with you about that, which is why my statement made clear, and I think our practice has been, and I haven't been on the board for that long, but I have never received a complaint, and we do, pigs and horses, and that we have trespassed on anybody's property, okay? I've never got a complaint about it. And I don't think, and Matt Armendo, people don't know Matt Armendo is our health director. He's been a Board of Health, a Board of Health professional, for years. And he makes it very clear that there's no trespassing involved. And so, let me just finish on this other part. So this is what the MDR website says about this section. Permission to inspect any premises on which animals are kept is assured to animal inspectors under the law I just cited. Visits should be scheduled for normal business hours. If a conflict between the animal owner and inspector occurs, the inspector may have a local police officer accompany him or her.
Scheduled.
Yeah, I mean, I guess what I'm, I don't mean to say that your criticisms or your concerns are invalid, okay? I don't mean to say that. I'm very willing to listen to it, and I recognize that there are sections of this that could be worded differently, that your rights could be articulated more clearly, okay? I just want to say that it was never our intent to authorize trespass on your property, to violate your constitutional rights, okay? What I'm saying is that I looked at the state law, I relied on other regulations that we had passed without comment that went through the Agricultural Commission process without comment on those aspects. Okay.
Video. That's not true.
Okay. All right. And, all right. So then I stand to be corrected. Okay, I stand to be corrected on that if it's true. I guess I'm not trying to convince you of anything other than this was not our intent, okay? It's not our intent to do that. And,
I think what they've done is piggyback these regulations on the back of the 177 farm, which is not representative of any other farmer in this town. Typical Board of Health fashion, they're throwing the Ag Commission under the bus, which I think is unwarranted. And I think the people of this town have spoken. Registration, does anybody in this town believe they need to register their animals? Does anybody believe? Yes. Okay, fine.
Hey, hold on, please. So this is not what...
Do you have any animals?
Hold on. Can we just get, I apologize if I contributed to the disorder here, okay? I said I apologize if I contributed to the disorder here. okay? I think it's legitimate if people want to comment on the regulation. I don't think the purpose of this is to take votes on what we do or do want. I heard what you said. I heard what you said. Tom Viella asked some questions, and I tried to answer them.
You're not listening to the fact that the vast majority of the people in this room don't want the regulations.
Well,
and they don't feel they're needed. They are not needed.
And I didn't agree to any regulations. Don't get that wrong. I asked for clarification.
Right, I didn't say...
Before you came to us with the paperwork, I asked you this outside of the town hall after the last thrown-out meeting. Come with clarification so this didn't happen. That was it.
Yeah.
I think this is over.
Right, okay.
This is over.
Yeah. Right, okay, so I think everybody has had an opportunity to speak. I think the message has been made very clearly. I was trying to address what I thought were some people's concerns as a way of just moving forward, okay? And so unless anybody who hasn't had a chance to speak yet feels it's necessary to speak, I'd like to close the meeting.
I would like to speak.
It's not appropriate to speak from there. You need to come up. You need to come up if you do.
I would only like to address the fact of the fees. When I earlier spoke, I said I read through a lot of regulations, not just ours, other towns. It looks like we, at some point, read a lot of this board or other boards, read a lot of towns' information. If you go to the Dartmouth website, their regulation for animals is more extensive than this one, it appears, okay? But they approach over 5-acre farms and under 5-acre farms in two different categories. I would suggest that you look at that the same way. I'm not up here saying yes or no to anything. I do believe that this regulation is going to hurt the farming community in the long run. But just so you know, Dartmouth's fees are $50 for the application and $35 for the permit that you would have to give someone if they were going to have two goats in their backyard. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Linda Pacheco. I've got just one big thing bothers me here. You make it a requirement to register. You don't state how many animals, it can be one chicken. Register. Registering gives you permission to come on my property whenever you want, how many times you want, without notice. I think that's really bad.
I am actually ready to go item by item of the Keeping of the Animals draft, September 5th, 2019, and show the inconsistencies in this document, show the violations of law, show that the intent, or the purpose, I should say, as defined, is not factual, using your own paperwork and your letter of your chairman.
So I would be prepared to sit down with you and go over that, or if you wanted to submit it to me in writing, or as you indicated, people have indicated they want to create some other process that, other than the one that we have to get input. I just don't want to do that right now.
That's fine. I would just, in closing then, I would very much take you up on your offer. I'd like to do it in person. Again, review the video. The we's, the mays, the included to but not limited to is similar to time is of the essence and all the other legalese thrown in this document. Because there is not going to be a fee today or a permit today, the intent is get this in the filing cabinet, then we don't have to go in front of the public and get all these approvals. We do what we want. Study it, understand it. If I can help in any way, I will. Thank you.
Okay. So I'm gonna close the, I don't think you've touched,
Go ahead, finish what you're saying.
Well, I was gonna close the meeting.
No. I just want to say, it's very simple. You're government officials, yes? You're voted into office, yes?
Yes.
And I believe it's stated of the people, by the people, for the people. And I think tonight that majority of the farming community has spoken, and we do vote. So to keep that in mind, because once again, I feel that this regulation thing is the Board of Health's way of trying to save face. It's ridiculous, because people who abuse their people who neglect and abuse their animals, first of all, aren't going to register it. That's like asking a thief to register his gun. Let's get real. Let's get realistic. You're trying to force your will upon the will of the community, and it needs to stop. That's all I got to say.
Go ahead. My name's Gilbert Souza III, if you want to put that on the record. Now, I'm not a farmer. My grandfather was. As many of you know, my dad's Butch Souza. He owned the truck lot, Hillside Motors. But what I can say is this. This regulation will deter people from getting animals in the future. As that gentleman who has left said, he will get rid of all of his animals and not teach his kid the value and the responsibility of raising an animal in this town. You know, personally, I think when you go through with this and as you edit the draft, whatever you're going to do after this meeting tonight, remember one thing: keep the right to farm in a right to farm community.
All right, I want to,
I believe, could you say your name?
I think it's Bill.
Bill D'Souza III.
Okay, so I appreciate everybody coming, I appreciate everybody being candid, and I am going to officially close the meeting. Thank you.